Hello, my name is Abraham Centeno, and I will be doing my speech over history of football, high school, NFL, and collegiate levels. Now, who really knows when football really started in America? Who really knows how high school all started? Who really knows how college started? Who really knows how it was in the pro level at the time? And everybody knows how modern day football is. It's exciting, exhilarating. They know the rules of it all. But do they really know back in history when it all started, how everything was, how it all set up, like why they decided to do it? And so to really start to understand how they all started up, how it all was played, how they decided to come up with these levels, we're going to start it back with the simplest and standard of the high school level that everybody likes to watch on Friday night. And so, when the first appearance of high school football, it appeared back in 1929 in Philadelphia. And the point of why they did high school football back then was to help keep teams in order, keep them occupied. Because back then they used to vandalize things to pass the time, and teachers and students and everybody else got really sick and tired of it. So they decided to come up with high school football, and so they decided to come up with 16 teams in the high school division in the first conference back in 1933, and that was decided to be called the Pop Warner Conference because the man who started the conference was the head coach, Pop Warner, from Temple High School. And that is what's stated in NCAA, in the Livestrong article. And so that was pretty much the idea start for how high school football started, and there was no really record of who the first two teams would play, and for what was known as that they played standard high school rules. And now the start of collegiate level football was actually back then in 1869 when two teams of Rutgers University and New Jersey, which is now called Princeton, actually played each other the very first collegiate level game. And the rules back then were very, very different than how they were. NCAA reported that it was actually a 10 game in a game. So what they did, they would go down the field and try to kick the ball into the opponent's goal, which is now the upright. And so that's where you get the score 6-4 whenever the first game Rutgers won. And then they only played 2 games back then when they first started, and it was the only two of those two that played. And New Jersey won the second game 10-0 whenever they played the very next week, and that was pretty much the end of whenever it first started. But it really was the spark that lit to what now is how college football is now. Whenever they decided to go through these changes, as the years developed, they decided to change the rules, add on more and more and more, and now that is how you get collegiate football. It all started from how the NCAA recorded that whenever Rutgers and Princeton played back then. Now, the NFL level has a weird start to it, because it all began whenever 14 people decided to come in an automobile showroom, and they didn't want to buy a car. They all were like, hey, let's go and make a football league. They decided to make the NFL back in September 17 of 1920. And the first game that was recorded, I believe, down in the history log, they decided was between the Independence and Ideals back in, I believe it said 1920, right? And so that's whenever their first NFL AFPA league game was played. Now, the modern day rules were in there, but it kind of was altered a little bit. So what they did was passing was really restricted, and coaching was restricted as well. They could not coach from the sideline. They pretty much had to coach at halftime whenever they had all the players in the locker room. And money was so tight back then that the head coach of the team pretty much carried the equipment, coached the team, fixed up the schedules, and back then they really scheduled whoever they want. They could even schedule a collegiate level team just to help, like, to show them their record. It was really a weird time back then, but that's how they really did it, and henceforth this was another spark for the NFL level, because the collegiate level was still like powering over the NFL league. The pro league was pretty much in the collegiate level shadows, so they had to figure something out to get them out of the shadows and get them to become the NFL. And so there you have it pretty much. Is that you have the start of high school football, which played on the Friday Night Lights now. Collegiate level football, which had different rules than how it was now whenever they decided to add all these new rules and settings. And then you also have how the first game was played and who actually thought of the NFL level between 14 people, and they were like, hey, let's get an NFL league going. And so pretty much this is how all football started back then, from between 1890 to 1933 when NFL first played their first game. And which I thought, my closing thoughts are, this is really like outstanding. Like I didn't even know when I played football all my life. I'm pretty sure half these people in the world who coach football, play football, don't even know how it all started. And this was pretty mind-boggling whenever I finally got my head around and looked up the history between the football and everything. And I mean, I hope it's pretty informative now that you know how it all started, not just how it is now.